Are you seeking fulfillment for your life? Do you want freedom from fear? That's why we're here. Welcome to Jesus 101, introducing you to the real Jesus. And now, here's your host, Elizabeth Talbot.
Welcome to Jesus 101. We continue with our series, Chosen, Trusting God's Purpose for My Life. And today we're going to talk about a woman who embarked in an incredible adventure with God. And I think most of us face times in which we have to say, okay, I don't think I'm qualified for this, but whatever you say, I'm going to go for it. And the truth is, every day is like that. I mean, even this morning, I woke up at 4 o'clock knowing how many programs we got to tape today. And I said to God, I can't do this, so you got to do something. And immediately the verse came to my head, Isaiah 41:10. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will help you. I will strengthen you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. So you know what happens? You eventually live like that. Not just the big adventures, but every day you realize that you don't have what it takes to go through the things that God will ask you. And he says, exactly. I'm glad you figured that out. So now relax, and I'm going to empower you, whether it's to walk on water or whether it's to cross the desert. And so today we're going to talk about a woman who actually had to cross a desert and do a few other things. But before we do that, I want to share with you a personal experience. I took this picture out of my home office. This is hanging right next to my desk, where I write most of the programs, where I write all of the books, right next to it. But it was placed there in a very, very specific time in my life, and it was when I started my PhD. You know, I think all of us face certain mountains in our lives. And when I started the PhD, I had 2 master's degrees, and that had, been okay, kind of easy, and, still working, doing the master's. When I started the PhD, I had no idea of what it would take from me. And so as we were going on with the PhD, and I was doing it in England, so I was, flying in and out and all of that. At one point I said, there's no way I can do this. I mean, the PhD was going to be 8 years, altogether, focusing on 3 verses of the Bible. But I was very passionate about it, but I said, I don't have what it takes. I can't do this. So I went out and I bought this picture. And this picture is a very known verse. It's a verse that everybody knows, that is in Hebrews, chapter 11. It says, faith is being sure of what you hope for and certain of what you do not see. How can you be sure of something you don't see? So I found out that if I was going to do God's purpose for me in my life, at some point I had to give up my need to see everything, to know everything, to be qualified for everything, because he was asking me to walk by faith and not by sight, which meant that most things I would feel completely unqualified for. So I had this picture, and I looked at it countless times in 8 years. Faith is being sure of what I can't see, being certain of those things that I don't have any facts for other than the promises of God. And well, it wasn't the picture that got me through it. It was God, but that picture reminded me of his promise many, many times. As we go through the story today, we have Pastor Mike Tucker with us one more time. Welcome.
Well, again, you bet. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
You're such an insightful man, and you help us to understand these stories in the Bible and make them real, make them practical.
Well, they are marvelous stories, and you have the benefit of the fact that they are true.
Yes.
And when you read them...
It's like a movie based on a true story, right?
Yeah, based on a true story. But, when you begin to read them, you realize that the authors understood something about human personality as well. Because they ring true when you read them.
They're so relevant for us today. And the woman that we're going to discuss, her name is Miriam in the Bible. And actually, I was very confused when I came to the United States, because in Spanish is Maria, which is Mary. So I don't know why in English is Miriam. In Spanish is Mary.
Okay.
Maria.
Good. I can't give an explanation for that. But
well, I wasn't expecting one from you.
But
maybe
thank you. I'm glad you had so low
no,
expectations
what I
from me.
meant
That's
is
good.
that you're Texan and not Latina. So Anyways, what I was trying to say before you interrupted me
Yes.
was that this woman, Moses' sister, she's the first one called a prophetess in the Bible. So she was called to an adventure that we don't have any record of any other woman being called a prophetess before her.
Right.
And on top of that, she's going to be called to co-lead Israel. Sometimes people play down her role, but as we will see in a moment, she was recognized by the prophets later on as one of the 3 leaders of Israel, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam.
The other thing I like about this as a prophetess is that she made mistakes. And it tells us that prophets are not perfect people. They're just people who have been used by God for a particular purpose. And so even Miriam, the first female prophet,
that we have in the Bible,
yeah,
at least.
that's right, is one who made mistakes, but yet was still used by God to lead this great movement.
Prophets, leaders, pastors, teachers, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
What an important thing to know, so that we say, okay, see that person? No, we can't ever go use them.
Yeah, there's a prayer that I prayed one day. This is facetious. Dear Lord, it's been a great day so far. I haven't made one mistake. I haven't thought one bad thing. But in about 5 minutes, I got to get out of bed, and everything's going to go downhill after that. So could you please help me today?
Yeah, you haven't made. You probably that prayer was already a mistake.
Yeah.
You probably had some thoughts already.
Yeah, well.
It's very interesting how God uses flawed people in the Bible, and Miriam is a great leader, and I love to study the lives of people. She becomes she was a very smart woman, even when she was a little girl.
Thought on her feet quickly.
Yeah, well, why don't we start the whole thing there in Exodus 2? See, sometimes we forget that this is a girl who is, you can notice when you have kids that are just bright.
Right.
I have one of those kids in my family, and the other day we got together for a Christmas to get together, and I did a little game where I asked people questions in order for them to get a gift, right? She would answer for all of them, the ones that the adults didn't know.
Yeah.
She would go, Herod, Gabriel, the names that somebody was missing, right? And she's little, very little. And Miriam, I see her like that, with all the answers, with thinking quick on her, her feet. And so Exodus 2, we have a very, very bad situation. People are terrorized by Pharaoh's death threat. All the male babies have to be killed because Pharaoh doesn't want Israel to grow as a nation. So what a terrible thing.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's inconceivable.
By the way, Moses' life and Jesus' life, is they're told in parallel terms. That's why they wanted the babies killed in Bethlehem too. So here we have the same situation. But now Moses is born, and what are we going to do? So here, let's start chapter 2, verses 1 to 3.
Now a man from the house of Levi went and married a daughter of Levi. The woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was beautiful, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got him a wicker basket, covered it over with tar and pitch. Then she put the child into it and set it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile.
Okay, so let's stop here for a moment. I have a basket here. I wonder what she felt when she had to put the baby in the
Pure
basket.
panic.
She's trying to save her baby's life.
Yeah.
She could hide him for 3 months, but no longer.
Eventually the cries get too loud.
I wonder what you do. You say, okay, my baby, I know Pharaoh, things that you have to die, but we think God has a great purpose for your life. So we're going to put you in a basket. I mean, I can't imagine a mother that desperate.
Right.
Saying, I know you have been put on this earth for something. We have to save your life. And I can't think of anything other than put you in a basket, in a river full of alligators.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Or crocodiles.
Yeah.
Where would you put a baby, And so she put the baby, and I love the details because it tells us how she prepared the basket.
Right.
Put the baby's crying. Let's see if we can put okay, there we go.
That poor baby.
Well, yeah, this is a doll.
We've mistreated that child.
All right.
Okay.
So this is now going in the reeds. I always read this and said, oh, come on.
The reeds,
Yeah, what reeds could that be? No. Have you ever been in the Nile?
I have not.
I think you've been in denial
Well,
most
I've
of your
been
life.
in denial, but not the Nile.
Okay. So, yeah, like we say in psychology, the Nile is not a river in Egypt. But
No.
actually, the Nile is a river in Egypt. And many of us spend our lives in denial, but not in the Nile, right? Well, I was blessed to go to Egypt a few years ago. Actually, it's 2009, and you're going to see some pictures here, and actually the date is on it. We spent 14 days on a cruise on the Nile, okay? On the Nile.
The Nile.
The Nile.
Yeah.
And I was struck by something, that the whole thing is full of reeds. This is
Thick
not
reeds.
like a little, oh, of course they're going to see the basket right away.
Yeah,
I mean, as we kept going day after day after day after day, I said, okay, now I can understand the story of Moses, because this is like a jungle of reeds.
Right.
Any place that I looked in each side, because it's not a very thick, very wide river. I would have been able to hide hundreds of baskets.
Baskets in there, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a very interesting thing. So I wanted to show our audience, and I'm sure our camera already caught that it's very easy actually to
hide a basket.
to hide it. And of course, in the tour, we were looking at possible places where this could have happened. But Miriam is the sister, and she's looking, and she sees that something happens. And
Verse
man,
4
she's
just simply
shocked.
says that
Yes.
his sister stood at a distance to find out what would happen to him.
Yes.
And then it tells that Pharaoh's
Why
daughter.
don't you read it? Why don't you read
Verse
it?
5, the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the Nile with her maidens walking alongside the Nile. And she saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid, and she brought it to her. When she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the boy was crying. And she had pity on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call a nurse for you from among the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? I mean, that's thinking on your feet.
I mean, this is a girl. This
Yeah.
is a girl. She's just a few years older than Moses. She's looking over him, and just like that, she comes up with a plan on the spot, because this is not something that they talk just in case the princess found him. You know what I mean?
No, this is a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah, just
And
like that.
Thinking on her feet, she says, here's a plan. And she's brave enough to do it.
Yes, and she goes, she's clever, she's courageous, she's a fast thinker, outspoken, very smart, and gets her mom to be the babysitter.
Yeah.
And so the Pharaoh's daughter is going to pay her mom to take care of her child, now legally.
Yeah. And the child is protected now.
Now the child's protected. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So as we go on with Exodus, and eventually Moses grows up and he becomes the person that God has a purpose for, way beyond what he ever could have imagined. Now we are going to see Miriam again. Now, most of you know the Passover story of the blood on the doorposts, and how they left Egypt, and how God did a miracle and opened the Sea of Reeds, or the Red Sea. And we find Miriam here again. So on Exodus 15, we have a song that is called the Song of Moses. And it talks about how God actually it names Yahweh in Hebrew 10 times. How he's so great, how nobody can stand in front of him. His enemies are down. And verse 13 uses the word goel that we're going to study in one of our programs, which is redeemed. If you want to read Exodus 15:13, I love that verse. It's
Exodus 15:13 says, in your loving kindness, you have led the people whom you have redeemed.
That's the goeled made into a verb.
The redeemed. And that loving kindness is hesed, or
Hesed is the grace.
That
very
is
good.
that fanatical love.
Yes.
Whom you have redeemed. In your strength you have guided them to your holy habitation.
So they're all singing. You know, when I was a kid, I used to think, how did everybody know this song? You know, I was a little OCD. I'm still now as an adult, but...
A little?
Well...
You look up OCD in the dictionary, your picture is there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, really? Well, I'm going to have to get him back for that. So, you know, they're all singing, and I always used to say to wonder, how do they know the songs? Because I could see all the songs in the Bible all the way to Revelation, and I didn't want to miss my turn when it comes to Revelation to singing. And I was like, where are the words? Who has them, you know?
Yeah.
So I always wonder how they all knew this song. But something happens at the end of the song on verse 20, where Miriam is now mentioned. Many years have gone by, and Miriam becomes a leader of something that I love.
Right. And Miriam, the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took the timbrel in her hand And all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dancing.
Okay, before you go on, check this out. We just left Egypt.
Right.
We're going to have a long way to the promised land.
Right.
Who packs a timbral?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, did you bring your timbral in your suitcase?
I left it at home, and I had no idea that we were going to use them here, or else I would have brought mine. But
well, she had no idea. I mean, who packs a timbral?
yeah.
And Miriam said, hey, this is too big of a celebration. We got to do something about this. I want to show our audience what timbrels looked like at that time. They had two types of timbrels. They had one that was made of skins. So this is made of skin. That's a timbrel.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
See if you can do that.
There you go. I'm
I
a
found an
musician
instrument
today.
that Mike can play.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
And then this is the other timbrel. This is the most known one. Am I getting enough noise for our
Our sound guys
okay.
they're saying bad things about you right now.
So this one says, let us sing joyfully to the Lord. I love this. So you can see Miriam going, hey, this calls for a celebration.
Right.
And taking the timbrel out of her backpack, which she had to pack very carefully, not to be too heavy. And she starts leading in this dance and song of gratitude. And look what it says. All the women went out after her
with timbrels. I've already got one.
So everybody had packed a timbrel. Who packs a timbrel?
Evidently, they used to, and they were all in their purses or something. But they carried them with them for just such an occasion.
And that's the point, is that if you were expecting your God to do something so big that you had to celebrate, you had to have a timbrel.
You got to sing about it. You got to dance. You got to do those things.
Yes, and we have voices, and we have hands, and we have things to say and sing. Christians, by the way, should always be carrying a timbrel because we already have the assurance that we're going to the promised land because Jesus has won.
We have plenty to praise God about, and that means a lively song.
Yes.
It means rejoicing song.
I always say that I don't understand those churches that get mistaken between reverence and depression. And, it's not the same thing. You can have reverence, and that doesn't mean you have to have this sad, depressed church. I mean, Christians should be joyful people because the fight has been won.
A great many of the songs in Scripture are songs of praise and celebration, and they would not be sung to a very slow rhythm.
Yes.
It's going to be something that moves.
It's joyful.
Yes.
It's joyful. And look at
and
this.
Loud.
And loud, like my sound person thinks I am all the time.
Oh, really?
So, verse 20 and 21, let's do both verses
all right,
together.
Miriam, the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels, with dancing. Miriam answered them, sing to the Lord,
for he highly exalted.
Yeah, highly exalted. The horse and his rider he has hurled into the sea.
I mean, you can almost see this leader of gratitude, and I love this role of Miriam saying, hey, I'm going to lead you people in a song and a dance of gratitude. And I would not expect anything less from her because she's this person that's ready for the adventure, the purpose that God has for her. So the surprising thing is what comes next. And next, not in the next chapter, a few books after that. Now they are in the middle of the desert. Things are getting hard. Moses has married somebody, and Miriam is one of three leaders, but there's no doubt that Moses is the main leader. So Aaron and Miriam have a little bit of a second place, we could say, even though the three of them are the leaders of Israel, right? So this leader of gratitude becomes the leader of bitterness. And I want to show you something. There's a new Bible out called the Women's Bible by Saphilis Publishing House, and it's also available here in the United States. They have illustrations. I love the way that they illustrated Miriam.
Right.
She has this wisdom in her face, like she's smart, she's a fast thinker, but also a little suspicious, is God talking to Moses a little more to Moses than he's talking to me? I mean, I love this. And Carla Baker, Carla Gober, I'm sorry, her last name, she's a PhD. She wrote all the backgrounds on each woman. And what she put here was very interesting. And I want to read it after we read what happened to her, because something happened to Miriam. Do you want to read it? Chapter 12 of the book of Numbers. This is
Numbers 12,
Yeah.
starting with which verse? You want to
let's do the first one.
First one, okay. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman.
Now, this was the superficial argument. By the way, it mentions Miriam first, which means that Miriam was the leader of this
Right.
argument. It wasn't Aaron and Miriam, like usually you would
Right.
see the male first. Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses. And it looks like it's about the wife, but we realize right away that it's
It's
deeper
not really
than
about
that.
the wife.
Yeah, so keep going.
Verse 2, and they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? And the Lord heard it.
See, you realize right away that it's not about his wife.
No.
It's about, hey, is Moses a little higher than us? I mean, can Moses do whatever? Aren't we leaders too?
The presenting problem in any disagreement is rarely the real problem. The real problem is usually something much deeper, and it has to do with jealousy, with anger,
Something you're
with
feeling
resentment.
really
Yeah,
deep.
but you can find something out here that seems to be the problem, but it's really not. You have to
Yeah,
go
it had
deeper.
nothing to do with that.
Yeah, the presenting problem is really the real issue.
I love that.
There's something deeper.
I love that. So verse 2, the real issue comes out.
Yeah, verse 2.
Has the Lord only spoken to
Yeah.
Moses? Is he not speaking to us too?
First, they're complaining about the Cushite woman. It's not really her. It's really their jealousy of Moses.
Yeah, absolutely. And so something happens to her. God hears it. I like it here, verse 3. because most people say, that Moses wrote all the first 5 books of the Bible. So can you imagine Moses writing this verse 3?
Now the man Moses was very humble, more than any man who was on the face of the earth. And he was so humble, he wrote it.
I like that. Well, we have a parenthesis, and many times we have people that have added things.
So a scribe is
and
most likely.
sometimes we have different translations of that word humble.
Yeah.
That he was a person that had submitted to God or something like that. That he did what God said to do.
Right.
Versus, hey, I'm so humble that I'm going to tell you
I'm going
about.
to tell you how humble I am. I'm most proud of my humility.
Yeah, exactly. So then God got upset.
Yeah.
And so let's
Verse 4, suddenly the Lord said to Moses and Aaron and to Miriam, you 3 come out to the tent of meeting.
Yes,
so the 3 of them came out.
They're like,
I want 3 of you right here, right now.
right now, like you would to your kids. Yeah, I love it.
Then the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud and stood at the doorway of the tent, and he called Aaron and Miriam. And when they had come forward, he said, hear now my words.
I love this.
If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, shall make myself known to him in a vision. I shall speak with him in a dream.
Yeah, like you, Miriam, you're a prophet among us.
Yeah.
I speak to you through visions and dreams.
yeah.
Look what it says next.
Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, even openly, and not in dark sayings. And he beholds the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant, against Moses?
Yeah. So the Lord says, look, it's great that you have this call I gave you. You're a prophetess. I send you visions. I send you messages.
Yeah.
I send you dreams. Moses, I speak to him face to face, and I he's close to me.
Yeah.
How
And
could you talk against him
We see in
like
Exodus where Moses saw God's back.
that? Yes.
So he's seen my form.
Yes,
right?
yeah. And I speak not in dark sayings. He speak, don't talk against him like that. And immediately, when the Lord departed, it says that Miriam had leprosy.
Yes.
And Moses interceded with God for Miriam.
For Miriam,
The very Moses that they had spoken against. And I want to read here what Carla Gober said. Miriam, sister of Aaron and Moses, is first referred to in Exodus 2 as she watched over her brother Moses in the bulrushes. And as an adult, she was a prophet. Her victory song about Pharaoh and his army drowning in the Red Sea is one of the oldest poetic passages. She was struck with leprosy when she and her brother Aaron spoke against Moses' marriage to an Ethiopian woman. But she was restored after Moses prayed for her healing. And later on, and maybe you have this verse, the prophets recorded her role alongside her brothers as leading the children of Israel. A woman's ministry has both joy and danger. In her eagerness to serve, sometimes she loses sight of the one she serves and the reason she serves. She's still God's child. On the other side of a mistake is forgiveness, sometimes even from those she harms. If God is her guide, in the end, her overall influence will be for good in spite of her shortcomings.
The prophetic passage that was referenced by Carla there there is Micah 6, verses 3 through 5. It says, "My people, what have I done to you, and how have I wearied you? Answer me. Indeed, I brought you up from the land of Egypt and ransomed you from the house of slavery. And I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. My people, remember now what Balak, king of Moab, counseled." And so forth.
when the three leaders are mentioned by the prophets later on, many years after, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam are remembered as the leaders that God had chosen. Even though she made a big mistake, she had leprosy, Moses interceded for her, and then, of course, we know that she was restored to her role of leadership.
Prophets aren't perfect people.
Yeah, prophets aren't perfect people. Neither are we, and God still has purpose for our lives.
Right.
And I love something, the way this ends, and I'm going to head to the cross for this.
Very
Mike.
good.
Thank you so much for being with us. You're always
My
so
joy.
insightful. And I learned a few things from you today.
Oh, very good.
Yes. Not that I never do, but today I did.
well,
Very
good.
yeah. And I want to tell you that the Song of Moses that Miriam was celebrating doesn't end in Exodus. As a matter of fact, that was only what we call a typological song. It was a symbol of something much greater that would happen later, and it's us going to the promised land. So in Revelation 15, we find the people of God again next to the sea. And they're singing the Song of Moses again. But this time we realize what this whole song was about. And so it says here, chapter 15 of Revelation, verse 2, "And I saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had been victorious over the beast and his image and the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, holding harps." This time, instead of timbrels, they had harps. And look at what they were singing, verse 3. "They sang the song of Moses, the bondservant of God, and the song of the Lamb." See, that's when we realize that the other song of Moses was only a symbol of crossing over, because now the song on chapter 15, verse 3 is called the Song of Moses and the Lamb. And they were singing, celebrating, having instruments in their hands, saying, "Great and marvelous are your works, O Lord, the Almighty. Righteous and true are your ways, King of the nations." See, she was a leader of gratitude when they crossed the Red Sea. Well, but the real big crossing is something that was guaranteed at the cross. God made a way where there was no way, so we could go to the promised land. That's why the song is the Song of Moses and the Lamb. Now we understand. I want to invite you not to be like the first part of Miriam's life, not to become bitter because something is different. Maybe you're in a second place in leadership and you're saying, "Hey, isn't God speaking to me too?" Be a leader of gratitude, not a leader of bitterness. And start your timbrels now. We already know how the story ends. You know, Jesus wins. We already know. We know the end of the story. So whether it's with your mouth and a song, whether it's with an instrument, whether it's with your timbrel, just go and shout it from the mountaintop. We know how it ends. He has won. Jesus wins. He has redeemed us. So be a leader of gratitude in Jesus' name, because he has won.